Thank you, everybody. This is a rapid-fire session with the panelists, the large panel that we've got, 50 minutes. So the topic this afternoon is the top priorities for the C-suite in 2025. So really interesting panel. I'm interested in myself to hear the responses. But what we thought we'd do is a quick introduction for everybody. My name's Steve Cummings. I'm the managing partner of Resolve. Resolve is a Toronto-based firm operating in North America, and we specialize in exit planning and value growth techniques for business owners who are about 5 years away from retirement or selling their company. So if I could hand over to the panel to introduce themselves, please.
Sure, thank you so much for having me. My name is Brian Tolaby. I started my career working at NASA building satellites when I was 16 years old. Started my first company when I was 20. Now I'm running my 7th company. It's a company called Uhura AI. And we invented technology that enables people to learn 3 to 5 times faster than traditional education. And we focused this on corporate upskilling for adults. So corporations, everything from Fortune 100 companies down to SMBs, as well as NASA, use us to upskill their existing employees to get them to be more productive, or to train them on how to use emerging artificial intelligence tools to automate a lot of their processes within their organizations. I also run a nonprofit called Future of Humanity Summit, where I bring global leaders together to address existential risk issues. And I also invest quite a bit in emerging tech companies. Thank you for having me.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Hendrith. I'm the managing partner of Mayflower Plymouth Capital. We specialize in municipal and corporate bonds, but we also provide strategic advisory services to mostly medium-sized companies. I'm also an author of more than 10 books, particularly on corporate governance and business. You may have seen some of my quotes in Forbes or NASDAQ or other places as well.
Hello, everyone. My name is Heather Ogburn-Stokes. I'm the founder and CEO of Serenity Light Recovery Wellness Center. We are located in Houston, Texas. I am trained in suicide prevention as well as IASIS, microcurrent neurofeedback. I also train and teach about crisis prevention and interventions. And I volunteer for the Grateful Americans charity, helping veterans receive treatment from PTSD and trauma. Serenity Light Recovery is a wellness recovery center specializing in addiction and mental health. And we want to raise the bar. What is going on in this society and the treatment world needs to change, and so that's what we are here to do. We implement wellness in all we do. It's a beautiful blend between Eastern and Western medical modalities, and really looking at evolving and innovative treatment modalities to really make a difference in helping individuals thrive and improve their lives and to get well again. So I could probably talk for hours, but I will pass the mic.
Thank you. So nice to be speaking after Heather, because I take off from kind of the same space. 20 years ago, I used to run a consulting company, and I got this feeling that we are creating more problems for the world than we're solving. I didn't want to be part of the problem, but I didn't have a solution. And some 5 years ago, a word popped into my head. The word was renewal. And it was something that turned into a book in 40 days and turned into a movement called the renewalism movement. And what we're doing now is that we are bringing consciousness into cultures of organizations to make them profitable. And we're just getting started in the US market, which is what kind of brings me here. I've authored 4 books, Renewal being one of them. And totally ripped to be here with you guys and with this panel. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Diane Phelan. My background is in electrical engineering and manufacturing engineering. Have also worked with NASA in the past on the astronaut suits, and I've worked in the semiconductor industry as well as software startups. I'm currently working at Reka AI, which is a startup specializing in multimodal agentic AI, which I can talk about a little bit later. But very excited to be part of this panel and look forward to hearing about everybody.
Well, thank you, everybody. So I'm going to turn to Brian first. 4 minutes, Brian. 4 minutes to everybody else. They have such a lot to tell you, so we're going to have to keep them focused here. So Brian, what should C-level executives be doing to incorporate AI into their business, in your opinion?
Well, that's a fantastic question. Well, first of all, how many of you guys in this audience are C-level executives? Okay, fantastic. How many of you, for everybody, wants to get more revenue this year for your company? Okay, almost everybody. How many of you are currently growing 30% month over month? Okay, so I want to tell us a quick story. About 100 years ago in Manhattan, one of the biggest challenges they faced was horse poop. Everybody walked around with horses. And so the horses, there was tons of them, they pooped everywhere. So they had to hire tons of people to shovel up all the horse manure, put it in wagons and take it across the bridge and take it into these massive piles. Now that brought some challenges, right? Because the entire city smelled really bad all the time. And then when they had food carts all across the city where people bought produce, the bugs would land on the food and go all over. Now, at the time, they started asking questions. How do we solve this problem? Maybe we should feed the horses different kind of food where their poop doesn't smell as bad. Maybe we should give them some medicine that makes flies not actually go towards that horse poop. None of those solutions are what actually solve the problem. I bet you can figure out what the solution was. The solution was the Model T. It was a completely different way of doing business. Now, one of the things that is happening right now as we speak is a massive transformation in how every business runs because of agentic AI, which I'm sure she's going to talk about very shortly, and of course, the emerging artificial general intelligence that are going to be coming online. So every single one of my employees right now has between 10 to 30 agents that they manage. So every morning when they wake up, after checking their Facebook while they're still in bed, they check on the work that all of their AI agents did while they slept, and then give them new directions. And then they go brush their teeth and take a shower and get their morning coffee. And by the time they've sat down at their desk a couple hours later, all those tasks are complete. They look over all the work, edit a little bit lightly, and then give them new tasks to accomplish. That allows them to be significantly more impactful. So I'm going to end on this because I think I'm running out of time. But if you aren't tracking the thousands of AI tools that are emerging on a day-to-day basis, you're falling behind. You don't want to be one of the Blockbusters or Nokias of the world as the world adapts around you.
That's great advice, thank you. So, Hendrith, bringing the financial perspective to the table here, given the increasing volatility and complexity of global supply chains, how can C-suite leaders be resilient and bring adaptable systems that can withstand future disruptions?
Yeah, that's a really great question, and I think the AI issue, or opportunity rather, plays into this as well. I think companies need to really have a paradigm shift in the way that they think about supply chains. Much of how we think about supply chains today has really come about as a result of the first industrial revolution and that sort of linear way of thinking and doing things. I think we need a paradigm shift where instead of thinking of these things in a rather linear way, we think of them instead as a whole systems framework, and really think about how are the different nodes and networks connecting to each other, and doing that on in a multi-level way. There is also an opportunity, I think, with AI in helping us to better manage supply chains. There are some interesting things happening over at Walmart and also Amazon, where, and Unilever as well, for example, they're creating digital twins and using AI to measure, track, evaluate, and identify opportunities in the digital twin ecosystem of their supply chains, and then finding ways to translate that into the material world. And they're seeing a lot of benefits and advantages with, bridging that gap between the technologies such as AI and the physical supply chain that's being managed. So, and they're doing that in a whole systems kind of way.
That's great, thank you. So as the workload accelerates, as the productivity hopefully accelerates, the question for Heather is, how do you find balance between work productivity and wellness within the workplace?
Yes, because we can't forget about the human experience, right? And the human capability. And AI is such a great tool, but there's individuals and humans at work too. And so we have to make sure first, as leaders, to be well ourselves. And then we can teach our team and implement programs to make sure they're well as well. To reduce burnout, right? We increase productivity. We increase sales. We increase revenue. It's not just trickling, right? I mean, we can make waves with it, but we have to find balance for the workplace. At Serenity Light Recovery, we offer a lot of wellness modalities and services, and so we actually have staff self-care time slots. They sign up ahead of time. It's 15 minutes, 30-minute segments, and they have it, and they know in their schedules, they plan it out. Everyone deserves a break. Everyone deserves wellness, and they go to their session. They get refreshed. They get renewed, and they produce more in the afternoon when they actually participate in these wellness programs. They don't get burnout. They're not just dragging their feet at the end of the day. And it's all because we encourage them to actually take care of themselves, because we care. As leaders, we care about them, right? Because we care about our business, we care about our mission. And so, I mean, let's make waves with it. But it's scheduling, to have that, and maybe even have AI step in while they're getting their renewal session done, right? And it's a team effort. But you have to find that balance because mental health is at an all-time high, and we're losing a lot of our team members, or they're going to other industries or whatnot, right? And they're losing their heart and their passion in it. So,
thank you. And just following on from that, Sandeep, as a future of work expert, what are the top 3 ways in which you see priorities changing for CXOs given the rapid advance of AI?
Yeah. So, Meredith touched upon the first industrial revolution, the kind of change that brings, and Brian talked about horses and cars. We are at a very interesting time in the history, or in all of civilized world. And this is a time where something that man has made is what man is going to either collaborate with or compete with. It's never happened before. That's called the 4th Industrial Revolution. And the top priority, I'm going to give you 3 because you asked for 3. The first is, we've got to understand as CXOs, what's the one and only difference that men have with machines. And when I say men, I include women, of course, and everybody else, but not machines. And that difference is consciousness. understanding consciousness. What is consciousness? It's that interconnectivity that we have. It's that interdependence. It's that energy that flows through, which only flows at the human level. How are we tapping into that? It's got to be a priority that's built into the culture, Heather, not just an L&D initiative, or not just a workshop, but something that grows the organization and becomes a conscious culture. The second thing is what Tammy touched upon, and that is the changing customer profile. The Gen Z is the one that's going to be calling the shots, and as she said, they're driven by purpose. They're driven by people. They're driven by planet. And 30 years ago, there was this concept of the triple bottom line that was placed on record. 10 years ago, the Sustainable Development Goals came in. But it's only now that all of that's got to become an imminent priority, because the people, the planet, and profits have to work together. Otherwise, we're losing the workforce, we're losing the customer. And third, because you asked for three, I'd say we've got to learn something from what happened, just in 10 days from now, 5 years ago, the world shut down. Remember? In the next 10 years, or even the next 5, or even the next 10 days, we can expect that to happen again. And if that is not, if disaster recovery, if nimbleness is not built into organizations in 2025, we're going to have a lot of suffering in the corporate world. So I would believe, Stephen, those would be the top three. Thank you.
Thank you. So Diane, just keeping the AI theme going forward, what would you say are the biggest challenges in scaling AI across an organization?
So some of the biggest challenges in scaling AI in the enterprise organizations would be an overall AI strategy. And back in the early of 2024, a lot of these large enterprises were like, let's just shut down this AI. We do not want them using ChatGPT to put our personal our company's information into there. And what they found was there was a lot of shadow IT going on. So people would go over to their phones and then go back. So that was an issue. But at the end of the day, they realized, if a product, like AI is going to basically save them money or reduce costs or mitigate risks. So if it comes in those buckets, that's really what they want to do. So within the strategy, you need the business and the IT to work together. You have to look at the data privacy issues. You have to look at the accuracy of the models that you're doing. And actually change management within the organization. People are worried about losing jobs, and this is just creating efficiencies in stuff that people are mundane tasks that they can do higher level tasks. So scaling an organization, having everyone on the same page and making sure the data is protected within the enterprise. So that's some of the key things that these large enterprises are working on.
So that's great, thank you, Brian. Just picking up from where Diane left off. So, where do we start if we want to upskill our employees to use AI? Where do we start?
That's a fantastic question, and I love what Diane said. And look, this is a real challenge. If you can think about the inertia that most people have in learning, right? When you get stuck in a particular rut and you work in a specific way for years and years and decades, it's very difficult to say, I'm going to adapt and change. So it has to come as a culture shift. Your organizations have to become learning organisms. I remember back in the day, and I'm showing off my age here a little bit besides my white hair, back up until the 80s, everybody talked about IQ as the most important factor that enabled success. Then in the 80s, everyone started talking about EQ, your emotional quotient, your ability to engage with colleagues and regulate your emotions. About 5-6 years ago at the Singularity University, where they share exponential technology, they talked about AQ. adaptability quotient. And so we need a civilization-wide and company-wide culture shift that focuses on continual learning within the organization. And when you can get your employees and your team members and lead from the top as the CXO to learn all of these new tools, even though they're alien, even though they're difficult, even though you might use them improperly or you might make mistakes, just the going through the process of using all of these emerging AI tools will enable you to go up that learning curve faster and faster, and will give you massive competitive advantage against everybody that's not using those AI tools. And that's going to be incredibly important for the companies that want to thrive in this new marketplace. And of course, there are useful tools that enable you to learn those things faster, not to plug my own company, but you're not in it alone. There are people that can help you.
So Hendrith, from a financial perspective, in the constant drive for improvement and increased profitability and efficiency and so on, just thinking about stakeholder capitalism, how can C-suite leaders balance the often competing interests of diverse stakeholders such as employees, customers, communities, and shareholders, in your view?
Yeah, great question. I think I'll start off by actually pointing out a point of synergy that I sort of just noticed here, which is, you mentioned, Brian, AQ, adaptability quotient. And I think when we think about stakeholders, one stakeholder is obviously employees. Companies, we have employees, and if we can find ways to help our employees with that AQ, that I think ties into their wellness, their potentially their consciousness, or this is an area where there can be gaps that are bridged that benefit employees, and it's going to ultimately benefit the company or the organization. So that's definitely one way. I think also there's another sort of paradigm shift that needs to take place in terms of companies managing stakeholder capitalism, managing multiple stakeholders, and that is, I think, shifting from thinking of viewing the stakeholders who aren't obviously in the room, such as employees and the leaders of the organizations, shifting from thinking about that as a charitable act to thinking of that as a profit-generating act. And how can we reach out to or partner with our other stakeholders who may not be in the room? I call them the invisible stakeholders. And how can we leverage that partnership to create gains for the company? And those gains may not be as obvious as some of the gains we may see from more traditional methods. However, they could be as impactful, if not more impactful, depending on the circumstance. So again, I think a shift needs to take place. If we think about our broader stakeholders and how we engage with them as a charitable act, there's a limit there. And it's also a transactional thing, which by its nature, transactional things have these limits embedded within them. So we can think instead of it as a relational thing instead of a transactional thing. And ironically, how can we leverage that to create benefits or gains for the organization? How can we use that to help us win? And the beautiful thing is that's a win-win situation. If you're helping your broader stakeholders to win in some way, obviously you'd want to hear from them as far as what that means for them. But if you're helping them to accomplish their goals or to win, and then you're leveraging that to help your organization win, well, now you have a win-win situation. And if you're really strategic about it, you could end up with a win-win-win, or a win to the fourth power, fifth power type of situation, where just multiple wins are created from this shift in thinking. And I think that's a beautiful thing with a lot of opportunity there.
Thank you. You know, as we talk about top priorities, health certainly is always on the agenda there, right up there. So Heather, question for you: with mental health on the rise, how would wellness programs benefit C-suite's team performance? And should wellness be a top priority for business leaders?
Absolutely, 100%. You know, you're talking about, you know, connection and resiliency, right? And working together as a team and collaborating and going into that, the cultural shift, right? And what better way but to allow your team to rise with you and walk through that change and that culture shift together, right? It's about connection and collaboration. And I would say influence is the ultimate buy-in. If you can influence your team and get them to believe in the mission and the vision of your company, they are going to walk side by side with you at all costs, no matter what. Right? And you believe in them, you help them rise, and that means investing in them, so they are investing their time into your company, and then profitability rises, productivity rises, right? You all rise together. And I believe there was a huge shift downward with COVID and the other pandemics, right? And that's when the mental health was on it was skyrocketing. Right, you were pulling people, and it even happened to me. I was on bed rest, pregnant, and away from my company that I started from the ground up because it was the unknown, and I had to, you know, protect the team from afar and everything else. But you're pulling people away that have been face to face with so many people, right? And then it's that disconnect. And then they get kind of destroyed from the inside out. And so with AI coming in, I think reassuring the human aspect of the job, right? Reassuring them to lift them up and rise together to come familiar and not threatened by the AI that is taking off wildly, right? And helping improve their self-care on a regular basis. So they can become more resilient and be able to maneuver any chaos, any crisis that comes your way. You know, sales might dip and you might need productivity to go like this. They're going to be like, yes, all in, right? Because they believe in they believe in the mission, they believe in the mission, the mission and the vision. And so it is always my top priority. And I have to remind myself too, because I have to be well myself, and leaders, right? We have to take care of ourselves to rise above and to hold our team accountable and lift them up at all costs. So, thank you.
And continuing with the health theme, Sandeep, how does the renewalism movement help direct CXO priorities better?
Yeah, thank you. So, first, what is renewalism might help to understand where this question comes from. Because I've attended a lot of conferences like this one, and sorry to say, Heather, but I'm sure this is your experience too. While it is a top priority to have wellness right up there on the CXO agenda, a lot of it is still lip service. And that's where what we're looking at is how do we make this organic and sustainable. So that happens when we work at the level of habits, individual habits. And I remember about 15 years ago, I was already very stressed, and that's when, like I was saying in my intro, I didn't have a solution to the problem, but I didn't want to be a part of it. So I headed out to the Himalayas. And what I learned from there was what neither engineering nor management school taught me. It was about the alignment of body, mind, and spirit. And that is a revelation, the understanding of spirit. So how we renew ourselves is through getting that connection with energy, with something as subtle as that. And that energy, in a sense, is the driving spirit, the purpose that we were talking about of organizations. So when organizational purpose is aligned with individual purpose, there's no organizational stress. And people are happier, culture is leading towards profitability, stakeholders are highly relational. That apart, what happens with renewalism is there's a strategic path to the learning and development work. You know, it's not tactical anymore. It's not like what good workshops in wellness should we organize this month? You know, what's our 6-month plan? No, we're talking about what do we do for the next 3 years, which is strategically aligned, and all of L&D falls in line with that. So another thing that I'd say is that we break down the silos, because there are generational silos Tammy was talking about, there are departmental silos. There are so many silos that come in the way of productivity of organizations, and breaking them down through a consciousness intervention, which is based on our interconnectedness, that kind of works very well in this context, Stephen. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And we're going to get to audience questions in 2 minutes, but just one final question to the panel, and this goes to Diane. So we talked a lot about AI and keeping the employee workforce healthy, but how can AI-driven decision-making improve operational efficiency and reduce risk for the entrepreneur?
So AI operational efficiency can improve for everybody. So it's your everyday tasks, like you were talking about previously. And basically, at the end of the day, if there's a workflow that someone's doing and they have all this data that they're entering into disparate systems, it can take unstructured and structured data and put it into those systems. So that actually helps with that everyday mundane task to make the more operational efficiency, less errors, and can be automated from beginning to end. And that, it makes for, happier employees, because, they're doing, again, higher level tasks. Like, you hire accountants and they're entering stuff into, 25 different systems. And now it will do that for them. And then they could be more proactive with things. Maybe quarter end, year end, any other additional goals they may have. So I think overall, people are like doing the higher level tasks. And as we're talking here, I had an old boss in the late 80s say to me, survival of the fittest is not the strongest. It's the most adaptable to change. And I still think that, is true today, obviously. It's true forever, I think. It's just being adaptable to these new things. So thank you.
Well, so throwing the questions to this diverse panel in front of you, any questions for the panel from any of you?
A couple of you have mentioned play with AI, like introduce it in certain areas. If I know absolutely nothing, what do you mean? Like, I feel like play with my eye. Like, what do you mean? Like, what do I pick? Like, if I'm, I'm a sales marketing professional, like, are there certain AI tools? You keep saying there's thousands, so I'm like, now I don't want to touch anything or look at it. I've played around with ChatGPT, got it, can write, my own stuff, but what would you suggest?
I can take this if you want. So the first thing you should do is download XAI. It's far better than ChatGPT. ChatGPT lies to you, it just hallucinates, it makes things up. Gemini lies to you as well. XAI is focused on maximally truth-seeking information, even if it's uncomfortable.
Are you saying SAI or
XAI. XAI, otherwise known as Grok. So download it. You can get it through Twitter as well or through X. Play with it. Ask it all sorts of things. Ask it to do things that you do in your job. Ask it to write your emails. Ask it to write a book for you. You can literally, in 3 minutes with XAI, make a bunch of those games that we used to play in 1980s. Like, I used to code this and, yeah, right, not you. Now, I'm going to plug a gentleman, Robert Scoble. If you go on X, follow him, Robert Scoble on X. He has a bunch of lists. He has the most complete lists of AI tools, and you can look it up by marketing or education or engineering, coding AI. He's broken everything else down. So you can just go to the marketing AI tools, find the most popular ones, take 3 of them, download them, get the free version for the first month, and just start playing with it. Give it a budget of $100 and say, I want you to create an ad campaign with $100 for my product. Understand my product, analyze it, tell XAI to analyze your product and figure out the most effective way to deliver it to your, just be creative with it. Pretend it's a game, pretend it's a video game that you're trying to master, put a couple hours every night into it, and you will get there.
I'd like to, if I can,
Go
I
ahead.
want to just
Go
add
ahead.
a few things to that just really quickly. I think cross-reference is probably one of the most impactful terms when it comes to AI and what you could possibly do with it. So you mentioned, you asked about different ways, and I'll add to what you kind of just said, but for example, one of the things that Walmart is doing with AI, we talk a lot about large language models, but it really goes far beyond that. So Walmart, for example, is using AI, not the large language model thing, but they're using this tool that can cross-reference. Essentially what it's really good at is cross-referencing various data points. And then you can use that to help you make decisions as an executive or as an executive team. So for example, Walmart has AI which is cross-referencing weather patterns with things that are happening with their employees, with geopolitical factors, and all of these other data points. And the AI can cross-reference these data points and help them to identify potential disruptions in their supply chains, for example, in ways that, you know, a single person or even a single department may not be able to do at all, or if they could, may not be able to do it as quickly as the AI could. So I think, you know, there's lots of apps out there or different tools, but I think if we can just harness that idea of cross-referencing and then use that as a foundation to say, well, let me go out there and look to see what our company could leverage. Think about what are the data points we could possibly cross-reference to help us make better decisions.
And Diane, any other tools that come top of mind for our audience that you would recommend?
I like Claude. Do you use Claude?
I have.
What do you think?
I think XAI is much more powerful.
Okay.
Can
And,
you talking to you?
So XAI is much more powerful currently. They also have another 900,000 chips that they've already ordered. A couple 100,000 are already there. So whereas it took Claude like 3-4 years to get there, now they're I think only at 150,000 A100 chips. It took Elon 19 days to get his first 100,000 chips up and running. Then he added another 100,000 chips. Now he has another 900,000 chips coming. So there's only going to be one winner. Just like everybody Googles everything, nobody uses Safari, right? XAI is going to be that Google. So get accustomed to using it because that's going to be the winner.
Yeah, I think you mentioned all the tools. So, you know, between Claude, OpenAI, XAI has really come up from, you know, to the top right now. So you suggested all of them.
Thank you. Was there a question at the
Yeah, we
back?
have a question back here.
So my question is for the AI guy. So my thing is now we're trying to connect everything. So when it comes to accounting, that's where we have a little. How many people, what do you think will make people comfortable trying to link their bank account to some AI tool? Because I see a lot of them that says, oh, they can do your annual returns, or what, not the annual returns, but like the P&L and stuff. for you, but you have to link your bank account to it. So I'm a little bit concerned there.
So, that's a fantastic question, and I totally understand why people would be concerned. But it really reminds me of, you guys remember when first people were able to engage in commerce online? Right? Amazon came out and you could put your credit card down, and there's some people that were like, sweet, I can order things online. And then there's a bunch of people like, oh my God, what if I order something, it doesn't come? What if I put my credit card on and someone steals it, right? Now looking back, we're like, nobody really, there's scams, of course, but that was an overblown concern. Look, the reality is that AI is going to be connected to all of your financial transactions. It's going to be, it already is. What Elon did with the administration, he has back-end access to all of the financial transactions. That's how he's able to find all the fraud, waste, and abuse in the government. And so it's already there. So you can be, if you want, in that adoption curve. You know how there's like the early adopters, and before that there's the people, and then there's like the late adopters, and then the late majority. You can be in that late majority, but if you want to be able to gain all the advantage of being an early mover, you just play with it. And that's going to save you a ton of time. And you know what? I know for us, it found a lot of areas when we did our P&L for the end of last year, we used AI. We found all sorts of places that we could save a bunch of money. And so AI is just smarter than any of your accountants at this point. Let's have a conversation separately on accounting.
I have one more question right over here.
Hey there, I think you answered the question on what's the iPhone moment going to be. You think it's going to be, I haven't tried XAI yet, but willing to look at it. I think we're all going to converge around something at some point. My question is, two questions. One, have any of you tried Bordy.ai yet? All right, I'm going to change your life, everybody in this room. Bordy AI is going to be the iPhone moment in conversational AI. The magic trick is that you forget you're talking to a bot. You know when you're talking to Siri and Alexa, it sounds like a bot. But when you talk to Bordy, it's this dude with an Australian accent that is so suave, but he is so smart, he remembers everything. And same thing, you just prompt him and he comes back, but you end up having conversations. So check out 30 Days of Bordy on LinkedIn, or message Bordy. I don't work for Bordy, right? But it's changed my life in the last—
They should pay you.
In the last 30 days. BOARDY.ai. It's going to change your life. You should look at it, especially in your line of business. Then my last question is, when you're doing your AI upskilling, and I'm running something similar with my consultancy with 2 educators, we could talk about this separately as well. What's your discovery process? How do you know it's going to be a 101 AI, depending upon who the class is, or it's going to be a graduate level, depending upon who your audience is? Because it can't always be out of the box. Some companies won't allow ChatGPT or whatever it is. How do you go in and really make that course specific to that group?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. So just to make sure I understand your question, when we're going in with Ahura and training their employees, how do we make sure it's personalized to them? So I always send one of my employees into the company. We figure out what their exact needs are. Now, we typically have 3 different types of customers. A group of our customers are people like Walmart who already have their education platforms already built in, and we sit on top of their current offering and make it significantly more effective. Then we have like the SMBs who don't have an LMS, and they use our platform as like an LMS Lite, even though that's not what it's meant for. And usually they don't have the content, so we source the content for them and use our AI to create content for them. The third group are government and military types, where we need to create on-prem servers for them. There's all sorts of security protocols. There's all sorts of things that we have to do that we do for them, and we do that at cost. But at the end of the day, there's something that Jason Calacanis told me. If you guys don't know who Jason Calacanis is, you should follow him. He's a legendary angel investor. He, I think, to this day, still has the highest return on angel investments, like, of anybody in the world. One of the things he told me, we were sitting down for 30 minutes, and he was giving me some advice, and he said you should hug your customers. I said, well, like, instead of a handshake? He's like, no. What you should do is, after an important customer comes on board, you should ask them for permission to send somebody, but preferably you as the CEO or the CXO. You should ask them whether you can come to their office for 2 weeks and sit in their office and go talk to people. As people are onboarded on your technology, figure out where the pain points are. As you talk to people over lunch or over coffee breaks, find out what other pain points they have that are orthogonal to the technology that you have. because that will identify for your product team what other feature sets you should roll out. It'll show you for your onboarding team where are the points at which a person stops using your technology because there's friction. And so we've started doing that, and that's been incredible. So what I would say is do things that don't scale at first, be personalized to them, and then once you get big enough, you can do things that scale.
Stephen, I just want to add something here, may I?
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen.
Stephen,
you heard
may
it.
I just add something to what Brian said?
Go ahead.
Yeah. What I'd like to draw everybody's attention to is this hug aspect. It's really important because that is the interconnection that we have at a human level, which is what we have to start leveraging a lot more, because either we are interconnected with that human energy, or like the lady said about accounting, now all AI is interconnected, and XAI is sharing data with DeepSeek and with whatever else. And if the machine intelligence is going to be a lot more powerful because its artificial consciousness is powerful, it's going to not need you to do accounts anymore. It's going to know every travel that you've done, every expense that you've made, and you won't be able to fudge the system anymore if at all any of us do. So instead of giving the power out there, we've got to start to learn to keep the power with us, and therefore use AI sparingly, I would say. Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it first at CXO 2.0. That was a great panel discussion. I think that the priorities are clear. Obviously, AI is right up there on top of the agenda for the C-suite, and how it can improve, exponentially improve potentially your business and efficiency and so on. But there's a lot to think about the onboarding impacts of the technology, the stresses and strains on the business organization and so on. So I'd just like to thank the panel for their contributions. And that concludes our discussion. Thank you.
One more time for our panelists. Thank you so much.